Welcome to Crafty Chemist Designs. Today I have a great project for you. But first, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel so that you are alerted every time I drop a new video. On to the project. This video is part of a monthly card making hop hosted by Valley Oak Paper. Flower Power is the theme for May 2025. Find more inspiration in the videos linked below. Let's get started on this project. First, you will need an 8.5 by 11 piece of basic white cardstock. Then you want to draw a line down the center at 4 1/4, and then again across the center at 5 1/2. So basically you're dividing the paper into 4 quadrants. I'm going to use the Impressions Abloom Stamp Set and the new 2025-2027 in colors by Stampin' Up. I'm going to start with the strawberry slush and start with the largest flowers in this stamp set. You want to start with the largest image that you're going to use so that you can fill in the empty spaces with the smaller stamps as you go along. Okay, first let's stamp with this big flower and the base layer. This is a 2-layer stamp, and I'm using the solid part. And I'm just going to randomly stamp this along the lines that I have drawn with the pencil. You want to make sure you go a little bit above, a little bit below each, of the lines, and then also turn your flower a little bit. Now let's do the detail piece. I'm going to use the same ink color because I am going to use a variety of inks on here, and so I didn't want to introduce too many colors, so I'm using the same one. It will just make the detail piece a little darker, but you could use 2 different colors if you want to, a lighter pink and a darker pink. I'm taking time to make sure I line my detail stamp up with the solid base stamp there. And I'm using basically there's 2 gaps in the stamp, and so that's what I'm trying to line up. There's also 1 petal that kind of sticks out farther. You can use that as a guide also. Okay, so there I stamped all of those. Let's put the strawberry slush away. I think this is my favorite of all of the new in colors. And then I'm going to choose the medium-sized flowers here, and I will start with the solid base layer. And for this one, I'm going to use the new Timid Tiger. It's a new orange color that I really like. I'm not a huge fan of orange, but I really do like this orange. And I'm going to, again, randomly stamp this around, but try to fill in some of the gaps that I left with the larger pink stamp. And again, I'm trying to stay kind of on those lines, but I'm going above and beyond. On the end, you want to stamp off a little bit off your page. Trying to decide if I want to fill in that space. No, I don't want 2 oranges together, so I'm going to just stamp it on the edge over there. Now I will go for the detail piece that matches this one. I really love 2-step stamping because it gives your stamped images, that much more authenticity. So here I'm trying to decide how I'm going to line up my flowers, and I'm going to use those. You can see there's 2 there that are 2 petals together, like make a V, and that is what I am using to line up my detail stamp. So again, I'm just going to go over all of my orange base layers with the detail stamp. And these details do extend a little bit beyond the base layer. It's supposed to be, I don't know if it's like the stamen on the flowers or just if it's a sort of more brush strokes I've learned that it's a little bit easier actually to line up that big gap in the flower petals than trying to line up those two sets of two flowers that make the V. But do whatever is easiest for you to line them up. Okay, let's move on to the next flower. And this is the smallest flower in the set. Right there, I'm going to start with the base solid layer. And for this one, I'm going to use the brand new Darling Duckling. This is a new yellow. And you'll see that this yellow has, I'm going to stamp off a little bit there because this is a new stamp. It's a little bit of a greenish yellow. It's hard to explain. So here, with the littlest stamp, you can really fill in those gaps that you left using the other, the larger and the medium stamps. Trying to fill in the gaps, going on both sides of the line, above and below the lines. Just filling in where I think is needed. Okay, let's move on to the detail piece. I think this is my favorite flower of all of them, especially this detail piece. Okay, I'm trying to decide how I'm going to line them up because I did twist the stamp around so the stamp wasn't going in the same direction on the cards. And I'm using that big gap. It's not a really big gap, but I'm using the gap between the petals as my guide. Okay, bring in my scrap piece as I'm stamping off the edge. And then I'm just going to continue to go around and fill in the detail pieces. So hopefully you can see why it's important to really start with your largest stamp when you start and then work your way to the smallest stamp. And if this stamp set had an even smaller flower, I probably would have sprinkled in a few even smaller flowers into some of those gaps. And there's nothing to say you can't get smaller flowers from other stamp sets if you want to. I just was trying to keep it to this brand new stamp set. Okay, now off to creating the leaves. I'm going to do the leaves next. Now, there is no new green in the 2025-2027 ink colors, so I am going to use Shy Shamrock, which is one of the 2024-2026 ink colors, so it's still a current color. But I felt like it went with this color scheme, kind of bright and fun. I really feel like this set of ink colors kind of has a 60s mod vibe, which I felt went really well with this stamp set, right? These stamps look like the kind of 60s mod flowers. And I was really surprised. I didn't pay attention, but this stamp set goes really well with the graphic that Valley Oak Paper designed for this month's hop, the Flower Power hop. So I was glad to see that. That was kind of unintentional, but it worked out nice. And I'm using these leaves to try and fill in those last, little gaps that I see. You can see I'm really trying to work in right along those lines that I drew with the pencil at the very beginning. And you'll see why in a minute. Okay, now the leaf also has a detail piece. So I'm going to get the detail piece. This draws kind of like the veins on the leaves. And I'm just going to go back over all of these base leaves. Now this may seem like a lot of work, a lot of stamping, especially with the 2-layer stamping. But remember, we are going to get 4 cards out of this piece of paper. So it is totally worth it. It's worth the effort. You could get away without doing the detail pieces, but I really think it adds something with these flowers, especially these leaves. And I'm not trying to take too much time to make these perfect because the design of these flowers really is kind of a water brush stroke looking design, so it doesn't matter if they match up exactly. Okay, and lastly, all we need to do is the flower centers. This stamp set has a larger set and a smaller set of the centers. And this is also a two-step stamp. However, I am using this very dark Secret C, which is a new 2025-2027 color. And I felt if I stamped it with the solid base color and then tried to put the detail piece on top of it, that you would not be able to see the details. So I'm just doing one layer for these so that you can see kind of the details. It looks a little bit like, I don't know if it's supposed to look like the little seeds or little whatever in the center of the flowers. So I used the largest one to go over the large pink flowers, but I'm going to use the smaller set to go over the orange and the yellow flowers. And again, I'm using the same center color, the Secret C. And trying to not too much, get it exactly centered. I'm just getting it in the center there. And I love this detail piece because it makes it look like there's 3-dimension to the flowers. Just finishing up. These stamps are brand new. I just got them. This is the first time that I'm using the stamps and the ink pads because the new Stampin' Up catalog was just released on May 6th. And I just received this ink pad, and they are very juicy. So you'll see me quite often wiping off my block. Okay, now, unfortunately, my camera missed the most important part, which is to cut along those pencil lines that we originally drew. So here I just drew a graphic to show you what to do. We're going to cut right along those lines, and you can see the result here. So aren't those beautiful? They look like you spent a lot of time to stamp around the edges and stamped off the page, but really we just cut that sheet in quarters. Okay, now I'm going to put them onto some card bases. I chose for this one a Timid Tiger orange base, and I'm making this one a landscape. And here is a card base that is the Strawberry Slush. I just love this color, and I decided to make this one a portrait. And as I said, you get 4 cards out of that one sheet of 8.5 by 11 that you cut in half. Now, I will say that since the card bases are A2 size, 4.25 by 5.5, I did cut a 1/4 inch off of each of those white pieces so that there was a little bit of the card base showing around the edges. If you want, you can go in and fill in any spaces that you don't like. I decided not to do that because I'm happy with how it turned out. Now let's use the sentiments to stamp the sentiment on the card front. And I'm touting this as a SIP card, which stands for stamp, ink, and paper. So I am not putting this on a cut out circle or a rectangle or anything. I'm stamping directly onto my card. Okay, I did the I appreciate you. Now let's do a thanks for, I think it says thanks for all you do and thanks for everything. So here I'm lining up the thanks. And I'm stamping the sentiment with the Secret C. You could do it in black. So that says thanks so very much. I felt that the Secret C went with the flower centers, so it was a really good choice, and it's, you know, a really dark color, so it shows up really well. So let's do the other one, and I'm just trying to show you all of the sentiments here, so I'm mixing it up. And again, that juicy stamp, this says, thanks for being there. Now, I don't know if this violates the SIP idea of stamped ink paper, but I am going to put some of these 2025-2027 flat pearls because I absolutely love these. They're the new 2025-2027 in colors, but they are pearlized, and I'm not sure that you can really see it as much as in person, but the pearl on these is just amazing. And I feel like it helps, I don't know, with the, like, there's a lot of negative space there, a little bit too much for me, so I felt it needed these pearls. So I'm always using the set of 3. And there we have it. These are our 4 SIP cards using the new 2025-2027 in colors by Stampin' Up and the Impressions Abloom Stamp Set. I hope you enjoyed the project. The products seen in the video can be purchased at my website, thecraftychemist.stampinup.net. I have a Facebook group, Crafty Chemist Designs, where I go live and do demos every Sunday. I also have a Facebook VIP group, The Crafty Chemist Presents Stampin' Up. Find me on Instagram at Crafty Chemist Designs, TikTok at Crafty Chemist Designs, YouTube at Crafty Chemist Designs, and my blog, periodicallycrafty.blogspot.com.